This time we're going to be looking for the 1971 Fiat 500 and the 1980 Land Rover Series 3 V8, which were the middle two cars featured in Series 6 of Wheeler Dealers on the road. First up is the Fiat 500. Now this episode first aired on the 11th of November 2008. Mike went all the way to Milan in Italy to buy this little baby original Fiat 500 and rather ambitiously decided to drive it all the way back to the UK. Now, the Fiat had other ideas and unfortunately it broke down on the way back and he had to be recovered all the way back to the UK. Once they got it back to the workshop, Ed set to stripping the car right down and rubbing the paint back ready for a respray. They changed the colour from the original blue to a nice ivory white and fitted some Italian racing stripes to finish off the look. Mechanically wise, they fitted a reconditioned engine and gearbox. Remember, this one's just 650cc. And to finish the job off, they fitted some UK spec headlamps. So how do the numbers work out in this one? Well, Mike paid the equivalent of £2,300 for it. And then they spent a slightly eye-watering $3,400 on it. Now, when it came to sell it, they sold it on the programme for $6,500, so that left them with an £800 profit, which isn't too bad. Now, let's fast forward to 2023 and see what's happened on the price change on this one. Well, using my usual benchmark, Practical Classics magazine valuation guide, for a condition 1 on this Fiat, it suggests £10,000, but because I get roasted if I don't adjust it for left-hand drive, I've taken 10% off, so I'm saying £9,000 in today's terms. So that's a price change of just £2,500, and that's a lot lower than I expected. I thought these cars had moved up in price a lot more than that. So what happened to the car after the show? Well, the first problem that I ran into was no registration number. All through the show, the car's shown, either when it's sold or on its road test, no registration number. But those who know me, it takes a lot more than that to stop me in my tracks. And with a bit of Googling, I came across this American website for Jones and O'Malley, who was a company that were employed, obviously by Wheeler Dealers, to find product placement opportunities for the show. Now, when we look down at the bottom, oh look, there's our little Fiat 500 with a registration number, MRD 850J. So now we've got a registration number, we can head over to My Car Check and plug it in and see what we get. And up it comes. Now, this car was registered in the UK the 14th of May 2008, and that fits the sort of timeline for the show being recorded ready for the November. It was MOT the week before on the 6th of May. Now, I'm guessing they possibly needed an MOT to be able to register it in the UK. So, it's all looking good. But interestingly, there's only the one owner from when it was first registered. So, it doesn't appear to have changed hands, which is a little bit odd. But if we scroll up to the Import-Export tab, oh look, it was exported on the 25th of June 2008. 5 weeks after it was registered in the UK. And there's no change of ownership, so my suspicion is that Wheeler Dealers, as we have seen before, didn't sell it to the person in the programme. They did actually export it straight away, maybe even back to Italy. And as we know, once the cars leave the country, we are in real big trouble trying to sort of track them down. So if anyone out there can help me with it, that would be really appreciated. So let's hope we have a bit more luck with our second car. And this one is a Land Rover Series 3 V8. And this programme first aired on the 18th of November 2008. Now, this rather brightly coloured example was an abandoned project basically for someone. They stripped it down, had it painted, but it was not the colour that they were expecting, had lost enthusiasm for it and decided to sell it on. And Mike paid just £1,000 for it. Mike and Ed decided to go for an LPG conversion on this one to reduce the running costs. Remember, they had tried this previously in Series 3 with a Range Rover, but discovered the engine wasn't suitable. But this time, apparently everything was fine. They fitted the kit, they gave the engine a good service at the same time, And to try and tone down that rather luminous yellow, they added lots of black accents. They added some checker plate on top of the wings, painted around things like the windscreen frame black to sort of try and tone it down, and then refitted all the parts that were sort of hadn't been put back on from following the failed restoration. So let's see how the numbers add up. Well, as I already mentioned, Mike paid just £1,000 for this. The LPG conversion and all the other work cost them £1,230, and then originally in the show Mike had sold it for £3,000, but then narrated over the end of the programme to say that the buyer had pulled out and it ended up with having to be sold again, and this time only went for £2,750 instead of the £3,000. So this left them with a profit of £520. Now, fast forward as we usually do, 2023, and look at the Practical Classics magazine price guide. A Series 3 Land Rover like this is valued at £10,000. As we know, all things old Land Rover are good money at the moment, and so that shows an increase over the one sold in the show of £7,250, which is not a bad uplift over that period of time. So what happened to EBP 359W? Well, go over to our partners My Car Check. First up, good news is it's not been exported, scrapped or written off, so we've got a chance. So looking at the MOT, the first record we've got of a test is in June 2008, and this suits the time we know that we the dealers were working on these cars. So the interesting thing there is there's nothing in the previous 2 years which would have been a computer record, so that does support the claim that this was an abandoned restoration project. It was MOT'd again the following year in 2009, but interestingly it had lost 10,000 miles off its mileometer at that point. Hey ho. And then the subsequent years it got MOT sort of every year, but sometimes it sort of overran its expiry, so there was a couple of months gap and so on. And its last MOT expired in 2016. And the interesting thing there, in that period between 2009 and 2015, it had only done 2,500 miles, which, considering the investment in that LPG kit was to cut off or cut down the running costs, I don't think they really got value for money for that one, do you? If we look at the keeper change history, the current keeper acquired it in late 2015. Now, interestingly, that's just after it gained an MOT, and the previous keeper had only had it for a few weeks. So I wonder if that was like a sort of driveway trader or somebody just doing a quick flip on it, getting it MOT'd and selling it on. Who knows? But unfortunately, after that, I've got nothing. I've tried everywhere on this one. I've scrolled through what feels like hundreds of pictures of yellow Land Rovers looking for it. I've gone through the forums and everything else. I can't find a trace of it. My guess is it's either been used just off-road as a bit of a toy, or possibly it's just parked up in the barn resting and waiting for someone to rescue it. If you know, as ever, get in touch. And if you've enjoyed this video, take a look at this one that YouTube thinks you're really going to enjoy.